Okay, so in the blue book on page 12, in our blue prayer book. The 7 branches of the mantra that are called Sergangma. I gaze upon the Supreme Self-Arisen Lama, seated on the immutable, spontaneously established throne, here in the mandala of primordially pure mind as it is, in the supreme palace of all the victorious ones of the 3 times. I gaze upon the Supreme Lama, who is meaningful to behold. The instant I behold that great bliss of Dharmadhatu, I cross the vast ocean of samsara and arrive at the blissful pure ground. With the eye of wisdom I gaze unwaveringly upon the Lama, the victorious hero in the battle. Just by remembering that refuge, all the afflicting emotions, thoughts, and the hordes of Maras are defeated. In your body, the victorious ones of the 3 times of all 10 directions appear together with their offspring. With joy I gaze upon your body, adorned with all the major and minor marks, seated on the throne of fearlessness, lotus, sun, and moon. 3 kayas, nature of the mind, Vajradhara, you are inseparable from great bliss. Bowing down to you with innumerable bodies like cloud banks, yearning with a full voice, I prostrate and go for refuge. Your body, the nature of precious bodhicitta, is inseparable from all the victorious ones of the 3 times. Thus, all Buddha fields are permeated by your body, and within your body all Buddha fields appear. I bow down to the glorious one. With your flawless, melodious speech like an ocean of ambrosia, you show all phenomena to be unborn, thereby defeating the Mount Meru of views. I prostrate to your unhindered Vajra speech. In the mandala of immutable mind beyond thought, you never move from the equanimity state of Dharmadhatu, yet you hold the wisdom power of knowing the 3 times. I prostrate to the spontaneously established non-duality. Even if expressed during all oceans of kalpas by all the victorious ones without exception, the qualities of your body, speech, and mind would not be completed. I prostrate to you who possess limitless qualities. Until the ocean of samsara is exhausted, you perform the supreme activities that ripen all sentient beings. I prostrate to you the Lama, who is the manifold, effortlessly arising, unceasing, supreme refuge. Oceans of emanated offerings to you delight the victorious ones and ripen all sentient beings. Having completely filled the Dharmadhatu, I make this unsurpassed offering unceasingly. From the heart palace of the great being radiates the light of immeasurable bodhicitta. Thus in all the pure lands of the 10 directions, innumerable beautiful offering goddesses manifest, holding water, flowers, incense, lamps, supreme scents, and food. From the cloud banks of offerings, rain falls, delighting the victorious ones of the 3 times, thereby filling the spheres of realms. I make offerings to the victorious ones of the 3 times. Light radiates once more from the body of the victorious one, manifesting parasols, victory banners, draped banners, canopies, musical instruments, garments, precious jewels, medicine, and grains. I offer ocean-like cloud banks of these manifold offerings. The 7 precious royal attributes like the wheel, the 7 subsidiary ones like the mansion, the auspicious substances, the substances of the cities, and so on, have arisen from the 2 accumulations. Please accept these offerings. Furthermore, I behold in my mind and offer to the Protector all of the offerings throughout the limitless pure lands of the victorious ones that belong to an owner and do not belong to an owner, and all that is worthy to be offered. I offer all pure lands of the victorious ones of the three times, which are the very pure mandalas of the three kayas, completely filled with flawless prosperity. Please accept these offerings, you, the Lord of compassion. To you, protector, I offer my body, speech, and mind, all wealth equal to space without exception, and all the virtues accumulated in the three times. Out of compassion, please accept these for the benefit of all sentient beings. By seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and recollecting, the Vajra goddess of form, sound, odor, taste, and tangible objects, the three obscurations are purified. I offer the goddesses of sensual objects to you, and please accept them, immaculate, victorious Lord. The Vajra goddess of body, nature of form, is the supreme goddess of fully purified ignorance. I merge her with the eyes of the Lama, Lord of the Dharma. Please accept this in the great bliss of non-duality. The Vajra goddess of mind, nature of sound, is the supreme goddess of fully purified hatred. I merge her with the ears of the Lama, Lord of Dharma. Please accept this in the great bliss of non-duality. The Vajra goddess of qualities, nature of odor, is the supreme goddess of fully purified arrogance. I merge her with the nose of the Lama, Lord of the Dharma. Please accept this in the great bliss of non-duality. The Vajra goddess of speech, nature of taste, is the supreme goddess of fully purified desire. I merge her with the tongue of the Lama, Lord of the Dharma. Please accept this in the bliss of non-duality. The Vajra goddess of activity, nature of tangible objects, is the supreme goddess of fully purified jealousy. I merge her with the body of the Lama, Lord of Dharma. Please accept this in the bliss of non-duality. The Vajra goddess of primordially emptiness of all phenomena, nature of sound, is the supreme goddess of fully purified mind as it is. I merge her with the mind of the Lama, Lord of Dharma. Please accept this in the great bliss of non-duality. I offer means and wisdom inseparable, the Supreme Victorious One, the five families with consorts, the assembly of Viras and Dakinis, and the Buddhas filling the limitless sky. Please accept this great bliss. From the equality of all phenomena, the ocean-like samadhi, oceans of unwavering manifestations arise and guide all beings. Please accept the assemblies of the victorious offsprings, the bodhisattvas who rule all Buddha fields, the ones of great, fierce, wrathful, out of immeasurable compassion, show grinding teeth and fierce faces on their posing bodies. Please accept these wrathful, victorious ones of primordial wisdom, who defeat the hordes of Maras by the roar of Hung and Pe. All manifold clouds of outer, inner, and secret offerings are offered in this vast mandala of Samantabhadra's mind. Within the mode of abiding of unchanging non-duality, the unsurpassed offering of suchness is offered. All phenomena are primally and completely pure mind as it is. Within that, whatever confusion, dualistic appearance of oneself and others, distinction of good and bad, hatred and attachment there might be, each and everything, I confess, may it be purified within that stage. With a happy mind, I rejoice in all the virtues of all the victorious ones of the three times, of the assemblies of the superior ones, of the unceasing wheel of the two accumulations, and of sentient beings. I beseech you, protectors in the worlds of the 10 directions, by completely turning the wheel of stainless Dharma with the sound of the ocean-like branches of melodious speech, please ripen all sentient beings without exception. I beseech you, protectors who abide throughout all realms, please do not pass into nirvana until the exhaustion of the dhatu of space. Rather, fulfill your commitments by abiding permanently. May all sentient beings be established in the unsurpassed supreme state by this virtue. By the virtues accumulated in the 3 times throughout all samsara and nirvana, and by the undefiled innate virtue. By the light rays of immeasurable great compassion from the palace of body, speech, and mind of the victorious one, please purify my body, speech, and mind, and thus transform it into your body, speech, and mind. Protector, as you made offerings and delighted the sublime Lama, likewise may I always offer ocean-like clouds of offerings and delight you. May I follow in your footsteps. May I perform limitless activities that do not even waver a hair's tip with respect to the liberation of your body, speech, and mind. May I be renowned in the 3 worlds. Thus may anybody, just by hearing my name or remembering me, be completely liberated from the tormenting suffering and attain the state of great bliss of the victorious one. May I turn into any form equal to the expanse of sentient beings, taming them according to their needs. Thereupon may they take refuge joyfully and be established in the unsurpassed supreme awakening. Those ones who are oppressed with shrouds of ignorance, who lost the path, who are threatened by afflicting emotions such as the henchmen of the Lord of Death, may helplessly remember me and instantly find the supreme path, becoming the inexhaustible wheel of ornamentation, which is the body, speech, and mind of all the victorious ones of the 3 times. May I completely dry out the ocean of samsara and establish all sentient beings in the unsurpassed supreme state. In all my lives may I never be separated from the authentic Lama and enjoy the glories of the Dharma. By completely perfecting the qualities of Bhumisen path, may I swiftly attain the state of Vajradhara.
Something totally. There's something going to me, Dohani, one and dog going to me, what is your track, having cargo pony, that's it, the Sadok on daily, Tawakonde, made. Cordeiro sempre tirei essa raça a ter como corete nimera um texto no combate isso something
So, my friends, yesterday we came to the paramita of meditation, meditative concentration, and the verse in the end said, one pointedly familiarized with the meaning. So we have, in terms of meditation, we have the sutra path and the tantric path. And according to the sutra path, more about that, you can ask questions to Khenpo Tenzin. And regarding the tantric path, there's this single pointedness explained here. And that is the view of Mahamudra and Dzogchen. And that is the view of the indivisibility of samsara and nirvana. That the mind of samsara and nirvana has a single basis. And it is this mind, this single basis that one has to habituate to. So basically one has to habituate to the nature of non-duality. So that is the point here of the paramita of meditation.
Dri shirabla dri tsawe sanje mehi verang semji chenji tu song. Tongdang guni kangri tamchi di shirab shiba dira dri sanje tiba dri sanje kinchin bo shirab kangri dri tata mato babala napsi to na mato babala napsi da yinji tonggo yore. 多的戏的呢，西巴人你们都知道，这个从台上的哦，上街的呢，人个身的上街，我上街中的叫狂人个身个内容的多呢，这东西上吧的上街的，等于是的，说他到上街，搞了说他个干米的，他希腊的了，希腊的等级定的，希腊等级定的，那边希腊你从写的要来，等于就定的希腊了，等于他다 새로 연구고 탐지 시랍을 때는 제력이 조다 제력 탐지 시랍을 때는 되게 요래 별로 맞다 들어 속차 가리나데 대사 대화도 탐지 시바들 시랍을 별로 들어야 요래 들어 탐지는 같이 시랍지와 건다스는 사월 대고서 내 듣고 요래 말이 다른 거로 시랍 제발로 하고아리 남시 좀 가리지 다스로 거잡 사월인데 그냥 나중에 못해서 올린 거요래. 배때에다가 속차 가면 차버 내가 이거 말해서 들이지 시합 있어. 지금 예배 시합 따다다면서 따다다 내가 고속산축 셈리 정도 동담산축선 타속산이 공방 맞춰봐도 사람들은 못하면 시합을 뛰는 게 요래. 그 시합 있어 거요래. 들이 시합을 지금 예배 시합서 다바치로 다 사달람들을 마탐지 시합으로서 놀래 시합지 와서 강하고 그러잖아. 그런 게 대화도 탑 너무 바로 탑 대리 연구요래. 제일은 들이다다 직진 수국을 송나타다 말라리아 송들었더니 다다다 제적 시랍 랑글 뭐들 시랍 대가는 사제에 송요래 다들 공부하고 나나 강의 되나 시랍 랑글 뭐는 직디비 시랍은 직디는 대비 시랍님도 시자르시테 창제 자와제에서 코디 니가들이 다다 대화도 되버들이 사지 되버들이 대화 시랍을 되게요래 그래서 딱 공부 들어오라 대화 쪽에서 시랍 직디비 시랍을 들이 시랍 되게 다 매바지 도마도 다 이니라 들이 대화도 동이 아연 거요래 대변의 시랍 시바데 쪽이라는 일이 직디비 시랍 따뜻한서 상호당 대통령이 시랍을 뛰는 거요래 시랍을 뛰는 대화되는 직디비 시랍을 대화도 동이 있어요래 시랍이 대화 소리 때리더니도 해. 다 소치 이기도미요. 다 동행이 줘요 거래. 이거 동행이 또 대화에 발라들이 망고는 좀 동행이 정도 된직이 시랍 대타를
So the next is the paramita of wisdom, And it says, Buddhahood is not something found by searching. Look at the nature of your own mind. So from the ultimate perspective, what is it that we call wisdom? In the Refuge, for example, it says that the heart essence of the Buddha is this wisdom, the wisdom mind. And for someone who has not realized the nature of mind, we call that mind or this wisdom consciousness that perceives a duality of self and other. And when you realize the nature of this consciousness, then it is referred to as primordial wisdom. And within that mind, there is no dualistic perception. So that is really the meaning of the single-pointedness before, actually. So we need to recognize our own mind to be the Buddha. And this is what the Buddha himself had realized. He realized the nature of his own mind and then gave these instructions. According to the path of individual liberation, it is said that there are two kinds of wisdom. One is the worldly wisdom, and one is the wisdom that transcends the world, the mundane. The worldly wisdom is the wisdom that projects outward and understands various outer objects. For example, all scientific activity is an activity of this worldly wisdom. And then also all beings really have that. For example, humans and animals, all living beings have this wisdom. And so this wisdom knows to some degree what to do in order to achieve happiness. And that's actually also wisdom. So also animals, for example, have that wisdom. There are some animals, for example, who hide underground in winter when it gets cold for 3 months. And that's also a form of intelligence or wisdom. So they go under the ground for 3 months and then they come back out when it's warm. They know how to do that. So there is no being that doesn't have at least some wisdom. So that's the worldly wisdom. And then there's the wisdom that transcends the world, the mundane. And that is the wisdom that develops first the relative bodhicitta, and then the ultimate bodhicitta, and then it progresses through the bhumis and the paths until it attains enlightenment. So that is the wisdom that is practiced according to the Dharma system. And so in brief, how we need to understand, what we need to understand to be wisdom is the ability to find ways to create happiness and to avoid suffering. Also, Lord Jigten Sumgön gave teaching on that in the Gongchik, and that also goes along the lines of Milarepa's one-pointedness. And so he said, Jigten Sumgön said that the essence of your wisdom mind, this intelligence, that is itself the Buddha by nature. And so for this reason, he actually refutes the view that there are two kinds of wisdom. And he says that there's only one wisdom, one mind really, one intelligence. And that he asserts in the statement in the Gongchik where he says, everything that is done in the field of knowable things is done by the Buddha. So the field of knowable things is basically anything in samsara and nirvana, this world. And anything that is done, any cause of happiness that is created and so forth, is done by this intelligence, by this wisdom. And also animals have that. Everyone has that same intelligence. We call it the worldly intelligence or wisdom for as long as one has not realized that there is no self. So there still is a perception of a self out of duality, and as a result of that, there still is an experience of happiness and suffering. So here at this point we need to really look into whether there is one or two kinds of wisdom. So there, Jigten Somgen says there is only one. And so this worldly wisdom is basically anything that we do to create our own happiness in the world, for example. But then, because it's the worldly intelligence, not the transcendent intelligence, that we are always creating both happiness and suffering. And that is because we have a dualistic perception. And due to that, we consider the self as most important. And then as a result of that, being selfish, we create a lot of suffering for others. And so then we experience this suffering of change because we are considering the self as more important. So there's happiness, and again there is suffering, and so forth, and it goes around like that. So that is what we refer to as the worldly wisdom.
Jiktibi shirabdi jingang chira dogore, dunga chira dogore. Diwa kase dana, perna kita sawa de koso kangi. Kang labda, zabelinga tata, zabelinga pekto tonche yinji pekto tongore. Me kashe de lana, yinji yinji pekto ju chibo chero. Yinji kete yigete chapa sabases. Pekto chares, deki koso soso rana gitini. Oh yeah, that is not some that you put on to Rana, nobody is Petutana. Jacobito does the way. Yes, better Dogana. In the middle, you take a double Petuton to Kilomariana. They have called materialism, the Unity machine. Don't chamber the Harco, Unity. 用地起码的哈冇种的，用地种头了的，那时候讲啊，地过了上么种就一些得到嘞，他一给的国文都我们都他去了，他这他就国文都得了，他国文都他出，咱们我就开始了呀，别得到上么的了，哦，他这个片一给的，希腊地的呢，一给的别干的去过嘞。 무슨 잡을 가상 배주 동토가 대서 하고서 지용 지지 하고는데 대도 시합 자체 총무대 대릉의 고아진도 상소대 시합했더니 그 삼삼으로 땅다 고는 뭐 요래 나한테 걸 때로 상송 들든 라요도 뭐 하고 대로 이제 뒤반데 나做제일 좋대 인증이는 누가 연구요래 이는 누가 연구 좀 되지 시합이 시합되더니 다 시합될 제로나 들이다 가는 체험 거요래 맨날 제대로 산지게 그래 되지 뭐
So there's this worldly intelligence or wisdom, and so this term, a worldly being, it literally actually implies someone that is bound to fear and suffering, even if one tries to achieve happiness. So there is one new thing, actually, Rinpoche said, I heard, that might be fitting here to explain the worldly wisdom, and that is nowadays in the world, the English language is probably spread the widest, so you can use it really anywhere in the world. But then there are some people of other countries who really criticize the English language, and they say that it's like a kind of a criminal's language, and it also sounds awful, and it destroys all of our other languages. So they have this resentment against English. And so this is how one would think if one considers oneself as most important or one's own country. But then if you think in this way, then imagine if you only want to hold on to your language, other than English, then if you go to another country, can you go anywhere and speak to anyone? So actually it's not very practical to think in this way, because you can't use your language anywhere in the world. Nobody will understand it. Somebody like that has some intelligence, but then it's a worldly intelligence. And the worldly intelligence cannot really distinguish between a fault and a quality. So then what is actually a good quality, they see it as a fault because of this self-grasping to one's own side. So that's sort of like how the worldly wisdom or this intelligence is. It's something that maybe we should really think about. Now, do we need the English language in the world or not? And for the most part, you can really only go anywhere if you know English, for example. So that's very similar actually to what we are talking about here. But those individuals who have some intelligence, who understand that, will really see the importance of English, for example. You can use it all over the world. So this is my own understanding maybe of how we can understand this worldly wisdom. You can also think about that more. Also, I've just heard that, and I don't really actually know the language, so I don't know if it's true or not. But anyways, what really happens here with the worldly wisdom is that one considers oneself as most important, and if the self is most important, then one actually can't really help it but cause harm towards others. So then even though you do have wisdom, you have intelligence, it becomes defiled by that self, and then that obviously leads to difficulties.
Shirablatini, Jungtang Yongdi, Sawakang, Jolan, Jungtang Yongdi, Ni Sons. Jungtang Yongdi, Taketangs, Shak. Jakim Shak was Taketang. Jungtang Yongdi, Nin Rajana, the Patches Sade, Godagoris. Yongdi, there's a Torchina, Tati Sade Dogoris. Sawakari, Jonayang, the Taketang. Cha dun zang cha ina de sa de za wo sa go ri zhong cha sa le na de yu me ji de da na che sa da go ri sha bu ta che da ji ti bu shi ro che da ta che da zhong ta yong de ji ri le de ya yong ti che cha sam no che che cha dun na ta de go ja go ri ra yin gang sa wa na de shi la de ji ti bu shi la go de da ta che da de ke cha she la de yong go yo le Donna Trita, Shrub, really Shrub, or Satana, Shrub de, so Namshi in a power, so Namshi the red, just give a Shrub Namshi. Red, the Namshi there, 13 pound, Namshi the Dajini, Hako your Dajini. Tater Dajini, only Zon, just give a Shrub child, your Japuchitang, Majara, Janang Timber, Dogeta Janang Timber. Thus, Haji Combataba children, the ever shaft. Dungi Terra Tower, Dungi Terra Tower shaft is such a sharp. And the sharp ranking all of them. Namshi Terry, Chipartere, Tasamotana, Rangas 17 to use it. Rangas 7 number Chiparatina Pop. Not you or a Taketana, the natural new what I made Tonta with the Bacatu Sena, the natural Nimberashina, or the sorry you did not have Zogi better, not that there is a hard horse on Sala, Tilly Nidime a charm, Tilly, that Dajina Patasser, Tango Tilly Sole, the Dats or children made you over town, that Daji Nint Honka, that is all with those. Telling Jitty, the ever shap, telling the Rogona, Tomoko of Sancho, and the Sancho, some Galidina. Daji, Yin Hong, 미직 다트 조마시 생긴 조지 내가 가르치는 라그도다 전나야 조 세드들이 yin 조지라 다yin 조지면서 다지 냐바이 차고요지 pero 다지 제 두고면은 세위인데 세위가 다지 냐바 사와도 두고요지 다지 냐바 사와도나 다 파져 소tarda 상승감이 답을 주고 싫어 소용 거예요. 배나 하도 나도 뭐저 따뜻다 동해 좋아 남노로 거 같아서 거기서 논도가 맞도 되나 총총만 보셔야 그러지 다들 깨지 이게 지금 상무들은 문이 장이 나와서 사태도 서로 소화해서 지금 타마가 rolling jet
So personally, I feel that the English language and also the American dollar is really that's a great service to the world. And so that's something really anybody can use, the language and the dollar. But then there's some people who still have some criticism to say about that. For example, they don't like America, but they do like the American dollar. For example, Sakya Pandita also had said that when it comes to figuring out what is a beneficial thing, first of all, we need to understand that, so this is how we utilize the worldly wisdom or intelligence. First, we need to understand that on the worldly level, where we see a duality, everything has faults and qualities. So there's nothing that is perfect and has no faults. Everything has faults and qualities. And that is what this worldly wisdom has to analyze. And so if you look at anything to be done, you see how much fault there is and how much quality there is in any kind of activity and so on. So if you find that there's seven, let's say there's more quality to something, and there's also some fault, and then you should still do it, because there will always be some fault. For example, if you have like 70% or so of quality and maybe 30% of fault, you should consider this to be a good thing to do, or a good person. So also it applies to people. And on the other hand, if it's the other way around, if it's mostly flawed, there's just a little bit of quality, but it's for the most part flawed, then you don't do it. So this is how you kind of distinguish, because you won't find something without any fault. So if there is a little fault, then it's still considered to be a good thing to do. So this is how this worldly wisdom analyzes things. And so from the perspective of this worldly wisdom, we have said this is a dualistic consciousness, and it perceives what it knows, what this wisdom knows, this intelligence knows, is self and other. And on that level where there is duality, beings experience suffering and fear. And then when we transcend that and achieve the state of Buddhahood through the holy Dharma, then we accomplish this wisdom that transcends the mundane. And then one becomes free from suffering. And so the essence of this wisdom, of this intelligence, is now we need to see what's the difference between the dualistic consciousness and the primordial wisdom. You look at your own mind for that. You analyze, you look at your own consciousness, and you try to see if there is a duality or not. And so even when you realize that there is no duality, then still the outer objects then appear in this dualistic way, but you know already that within the mind actually there is no separation. And then you will not cling to this separate existence of what appears. And that's really the starting point of equalizing self with others. So that is what you want is also what others want. If for as long as you consider what you want as more important, then there will always be suffering. So on the relative level, where we see a duality of self and other, as a practitioner, it is important that we consider others as more important than ourselves. And that's the starting point of the relative bodhicitta. So on this level, we must not consider ourselves, our own well-being, as more important than others. We must consider what others wish more important. And in this way, you engage in activity. And so on the outer level, it seems then, of course, that you're living, you're doing what you need to do in your life, but then in your mind, you actually consider the other as more important. So ideally, you actually put the other one before yourself, but even if you can't do that, at least you have to equalize self and other. So that is according to the paths of individual liberation and the Bodhisattva path. This is the practice that accords with the Holy Dharma. For as long as we always consider our own self, our own purpose as most important above everything else, whatever we do, we will be mistaken and there will be suffering. So of course there's much more to be said about that, this worldly wisdom now, but I find that thinking about it in terms of this example with the English language and so on is a good example. And when I really think about it, I feel that these biased views towards the language, for example, is really actually quite a mistaken view. So that's my feeling about it, but you can discuss that with each other.
체디 찍고 메도라고 그래서 체디 찍고 사성 지향하서 매시 레좀데 매시 그래서 누구 거리 다시 해요. 어쨌든 매는 이렇게 요리 다 주는 이제 잡을 야제를 잡을 줘나 다 주 sep진 답지게 내가 톱는 거다 왜 설마 그 야제 같이 손나서야지 너도 딴 요리 남들 요리 딴 잡을 딴 됐다들이 딱부신 칸나지 차디요. 저번에 차디구나. 난 셈을 찾대다 소소라 대화도 갔다네도. 대마치 찾긴대로 야지 성능 다시지 탐지 누구 싸움에 용도는 왜? 다 람종은 봐요. 걸 마초고 봐요. 걸 잡을 동이 치를 망들어요. 서동이 강양 매다야다. 다 미상 수고지나 미상 수고 특히 벗은 속아 소거야. 그 나무지 셈 쳐보면 따라 시작해요. 나가 로주 답지 잘하는 차대요. 다시 누구지 가이가 차지. 다 너는 세 대지 답시 가는 이유나 나 동에 타지 두고 매. 나 동에 타지 두고 매나. 다디 대화 가이 필요. 다주 대화도 두고 다 대화도 두고요. 다시 동에 잠도치 뭐 코와 동에 잠소지. 그때 네가 며칠 강을 내가 지당은 뭐라도 통화와 토벌이 같이 그래. 야. 딱하와 토모라토 다치 일다까리 다 나를 우리 세요리야. 중앙에 놓아야 그래. 동네는 나니 동네는 다들이. 다 사직 시합은 저기 대비 시합은 사직이 다 심지 담지 동네이 속속의 동네가 나가 동네래스. 토리 동네는 저러 동네래스. 대문화들이 생문내로 맞다 라지가 잡아들 뒤에 동네 다들 요리속에 다지 용물속에 동네 라지 용도도 없어. 그 동네지 자카에서 딱 나와서 만들어 송하디. 다는 직진이 되고 시작했다나. 단 직진이 되고 시작 배도다나 단이 바카리도 없어. 너는 동네 메라던 거래. 디콜 상못한 것들이 다 직진이 되고 시작된 직진이 시작이 시작적으로 배도도 당겨서 속에. 야, 덴바니 캐리 담리. 직진이 되고 시작. 덴바니 캐리고 그래. 덴바니 캐리나 단 직진이 되고 시작. Nebaji Kremlin Justive Shabri, Shabri, Shabti Parit, Petu Totana Soso in the Chitanatini, the Shabteta Chadoti, Tate Soso Grande Quantity, Delab Jokiore, the thing is that Satosa Yore, Romatan Kangshi Labo, the Gulanda, Yunti, Tatter.
So, oops, I'm out of battery.
The better though.
So, can you hear me? Yeah? Not really, right? Can I do it higher, louder? Is it okay now? Not really, right? So then actually the ultimate example of a worldly wisdom or kind of intelligence is, for example, the communist view. And according to this communist, a more materialistic view, one considers only this life, one sees only this life. And one sees this life like a flower. And when it withers, then it's gone, it's over. So they deny reincarnation and the workings of karma and so on. And they think that all of that is just deception. And so, however, then now we can see in this world that things are actually improving and are developing, and sentient beings are achieving happiness. And still, even though that happens, according to this materialistic view, even though that happens, when we really look into it, we are actually not really finding happiness that way. No matter how far the outer world develops, there still is suffering. For example, now people have more resources, and there is airplanes and trains and so on, transportation, and it seems like a pure land. But then when you look inside the mind, do we really find happiness there or suffering? Even if the outer world develops, still sentient beings experience only suffering in their minds. And so that's why this materialistic view can certainly not resolve our difficulty. And in fact, it seems the more development there actually is, the more suffering there actually is in this world, on the inner level within the mind. For example, there are families who are very rich. On the outer level, everything seems perfect. They have everything they need. But then if they don't get along, then they might even kill themselves. And then their wealth, their possessions really have become actually their enemy. So we can see that this is not how we can overcome suffering. This is actually how often suffering increases. We need to find happiness actually within the mind. And so you need to really think about this. Does it really create happiness? We want to have material things, but does it really actually create happiness in the mind? And if it could, then that would be good, but it does not what is actually happening. That is why we call this samsaric existence an ocean of suffering. Our entire life we strive after possessions, we want to have money, we want to buy a car, we want to buy a house, and so on, and we work very hard for that. But then, in the end, what happens? We get sick, we die, we are harmed by the 5 elements, and so on. So we are really actually creating suffering upon suffering. And that is what the wisdom of the Buddha had recognized. The sentient beings, especially in the lower realms, experience suffering upon suffering. And in the higher realms, we experience the suffering of change. And then everyone who has not realized the nature of their mind is naturally pervaded by suffering, the all-pervasive suffering. For as long as there is a self, there is also suffering. The root of it is the concept of an I. So this is realized by the wisdom that transcends the mundane. And so this is the wisdom that needs to be utilized. So basically we say that there's 2 kinds of wisdom, the worldly and the non-worldly wisdom, but there's really only one mind, really only one wisdom. Difference comes about the way we utilize this wisdom, how we perceive things with our mind. And so this makes the wisdom engage in different activities. But in brief, the purpose of utilizing wisdom is to become free from suffering. And so the wisdom that transcends the mundane recognizes the nature of the twofold truth. And that is not recognized by the worldly wisdom. And therefore it is utilized in a different way. So that's also my own take, my own understanding of these 2 different kinds of wisdom. Maybe I just have to explain to my disciples whatever I think is how it is, but maybe there is faults and qualities in that view too.
Jetili debe shirago na deba nidren do yore mangore yana deba nidren ne ka daji ni nam kapsa daji ni nam zongte ji zochare ji zochwa de da da maze bardo dange jema thaba der tini ona tata doge de yong khari tarang be doge yona 다 대화가 저상 대화가 저상 못해질 대화고는 대화 저랑하는 거랬지 상반시지 거랬지 동네그 저거는 당신이 좋아했지 빼는 것을 저런 저맥정정대 차롱 차성 가액이 차성 난 진짜 뭐 차성하지 다 동네 여러하지 데르팅스 저런 못했지나 오 저라더니 저런 것이 다다 동네에 들어지 저 이놈아 학원에 대랑 그 무지는 방tab아 대화고는 대화가 저 상반의 신지에 봐 대를 파신 쪽으로 되는 거 사와탈 되네 대비 저랑을 들어봐 대르티니 저 대르티니 다랑왕 돌나 들리문이 라왕 토가 탔대 적디는 대비 싫어 되네 레 준비를 다 대도그라왕 동이 방어랑 토거랬지 내가 좀 라왕 요랬지 대르티니 오 톱술이 서래 자벨은 맞지가 세는 거 로주 제보 맞지 강들이 동이 만용이 장미 봐요. 자카브는 자카브를 통나 양동에 와 자카브 나티는 메겔을 통나 가라서나 오 카시르 동이 주 마치 방을 요랬지 가도 같이 대탐지 가리에 다시 레 거로선 못하나 오 티리 산 하고를 들이 맥주네 스 동이를 뛰는 낭유모 봐저 뭐지 봐 텔레진이 동이 종아티 동이 도와티게라게 양 가시 동이 저레 장가요 봐 레드를 뛰네 다 동이 밀때 동이 좀 대화를 저 탑도 뛰는 걸 알았어 다 말이 별나래 나마다 하고서나 네 조바나 데와리스 빠고나 데와리스 선나 데와리스 강리지 노바로 나소남을 소발해 준지 레준이 때발아서 삼바든지 데발아서는 내가 소람라도 타고 다가 마음바 내가 그거를 때문에 네가 저쪽을 삼바든지 지금 데발 라서 봐 점바서서 저바타면 내지 다 버리지 달라 야시거래 제가 접속 끼어는 사람들이 다니는데 내가 터지는 내가 당 타톡 사지 공방 맞춰버렸다 삼바든지 제가 보자고 요리지 다 내버려 톱도 가는 내 톱을 잡을로 톱들이 몇개 통구요를 하지 등에서 다 등에 다른 집에야 다 톱송아 다 등에 대화를 결래 등에 처음에 봐는 마소나고 등에 그 시작주지 봤다 등에 요장 되게 배우와 하고는 등에 매번 등에 대화를 결도 대답에 시합을 다 사기 시합을 대답에 등에 내 맞디는 파별했어.
So this wisdom that transcends the mundane, that recognizes the twofold truth. And even though there is much to be said about that, in brief, for meanwhile now, for as long as we see a duality of self and other, we have to consider others as more important. And until the concept of a self has completely disappeared, there will always be suffering. And for as long as there is suffering, therefore, we are introduced to the causes that create happiness. If one wants to experience happiness, one needs to create the causes. Freedom can only be attained through creating the right causes. And the cause really is love and compassion. Likewise, if you do not want to experience suffering, you have to get rid of self-grasping. For example, our reflecting pool, it froze, and it froze because the weather got cold, and this frozen state is like a suffering state. So we are introduced to the causes, and then based on that, we can recognize them. We can recognize our own afflictive emotions and let them go. And likewise, being introduced to the causes of happiness, we recognize the cause of happiness to be love and compassion, the 6 paramitas, then we know how to accomplish our own happiness. So real freedom is attained based on creating the right causes. So this wisdom that transcends the mundane, it recognizes, it realizes the workings of karma. And who, for example, has achieved such freedom? Even in a worldly sense, there is some people in this world who do not have a lot of suffering their entire life. They live long lives and they have enough money and wealth and they don't really suffer so much. Then there is whole countries who experience more happiness. Or even within one country, people have different experiences. And then there is others who suffer all the time continuously. Therefore, when we really think about karma, then we begin to understand that this is why. So through seeing outer suffering, we then learn how to recognize the inner corresponding afflictive emotions that cause that suffering. So if you experience suffering, then you should recognize this to be karma ripening, and also it is karma purifying. So when you see it this way, then actually you are transforming this experience of suffering into an experience of happiness. Also Milarepa had said, someone who really has understood the Buddhist view will always be happy. Whether they are rich or poor, they will be happy. So when you experience some happiness, then you should recognize that this is the result of my merit. This is because, for example, I have practiced generosity with a mind of love and compassion. And if I want to be happy like this again in the future, then again I have to create those causes of practicing generosity or ethical discipline or patience with a mind of love and compassion. So then you will know how to make an effort in these activities. And then if you make this effort, then in all future lifetimes, temporarily, you will be born in the higher realms until you ultimately attain enlightenment. That is, if you always maintain this mind of love and compassion. Through this mind, you will actually attain freedom. And we can see many examples of that even in the world, for example. So regarding suffering, becoming free from suffering, first of all, we learn how to accept the suffering that we experience. We see it like a surgery that is necessary. And even though there is suffering, it also is actually beneficial as it purifies this negative karma. So this perspective then transforms suffering actually into happiness. So again, this wisdom that transcends the mundane first realizes the workings of karma, cause and effect.
라그 셈지 뒤에서 사제들하고 셈을 통고서 통로가리 다때 저거 통고 용나 네 사제 것은 용데 요레스 사제 것은 용데 강레 모든 건 남가다들 다지기 좀 말했어 랑진 서비스를 다 시간이라 doktor이 다화 신감 로쿠신감 처음에 봐 참고요 마다바 도와를 줘라 다지 인상요바 탑들이야 유문 쪽으로 하도요 양 사용고요 샤요바 탑들이 롱조도들 문이랑랑 롱조고 시작이 있냐와 탑제 라그 시작을 하도들 다 되게 저너들 라그 시작나도 팔고 자체 시작을 하도 우리들이 처대 인상 요제들이 등에 뭐 심하실 때 거기 등에 죽고요 그래서 다보시 하더라 니디 다 성들들 삼바다 뉴지라도 왜 대치 부선 저바들이랑 이것들이 저만매 바들이 다보시 하 나게 배나라 롱조도 어들 라그 나와요 하거나 들랑 상례지 라그 나와면 뭐 하마을 따이 이나들이 다 로아도 내가 천차로로 차례지 그 사지 것은 어디 거기 이거 도다 하고 그래 될때 사지를 남가듯이 들마도 없으면 진짜들은 기계라 이게 요래 될데 라리 소디가 좀 시합을 타투가 강래 탑당이 코스 모두 시합 코스 넘버 모두 시합이나 시합을 타투가 넘버 사지 비틀데 남시 실보 남시 실보나 그러니까 이실 니요 말이지 니면은 뒤능리들이 이 시대가 당 고대야 참들이 시상제도도 저요 말이지 심지도 말을 말 pero 동보를 자와도 뭐니 기반적으로 들이 추남 탐지 거섬나 비나데 사제들아 추 탐지 거섬 가나 비인지 심지 남도 상계 심지 탐지를 사제에 말아서가 그때 다만 통투고요 오 라고 세번대로 돌았더니 상지와 유진 상소나 들이 용티 말이 봐 라지 제용을 사제 용티 탐지 들이랑 셈 내가 또나 들이 용티 제대로 또 용고요 그래서 자베 사제 미베 라고 셈지
So it says, look at the nature of your own mind. When you look at the nature of your own mind, you should see that your own mind itself is the Buddha. And so what you see then is the quality of the Buddha's three kayas. First, the Dharmakaya is the empty essence of your mind, that is like space. And there is no duality of self and other. And then there is the Sambhogakaya quality, which is the naturally clear awareness that manifests as the 5 kinds of wisdom. And then these manifest the limitless Sambhogakaya pure lens. From an impure perspective, there is the manifestation of the 6 realms of samsara. So when there is still a dualistic perception, then the 6 afflictive emotions naturally project as the 6 realms of samsara. Sambhogakaya means enjoyment body, and enjoyment because you are enjoying your own self-projections, or kind of experiencing your own self-projections. And that's actually also done by any other being. They just don't recognize it. For example, in hell, this experience of hell, this perception of hell, actually is the projection of one's own mind. So a hell being is really experiencing one's own self-projections. And then the enemy also actually is a projection of one's own anger. And then for as long as there is this dualistic separate perception, there is an actual experience of suffering. And then in the Pure Lands, here all dualistic grasping has become purified, and there is perfect bodhicitta. And that projects also naturally and effortlessly as the various Pure Lands, wherein the Sambhogakayas then experience their own self-projections, their own blissful self-projections, and they recognize them to be their own self-projections. If we do not recognize appearances as our own self-projections, then temporarily they appear like blocks of ice in the 6 realms of samsara. So the path that the Buddha had taught is to recognize the 3 kayas, the qualities of the Buddha within you, to realize your own mind to be samsara and nirvana, the basis. And knowing that, then natural compassion arises for all those sentient beings who have not realized that. In the 37 Bodhisattva practices, it speaks about this non-conceptual wisdom that does not distinguish among the 3 spheres. So the ultimate wisdom, according to the Buddhist view, is to realize that the dualistic consciousness is actually by nature primordial awareness. And so we call that consciousness transferring into the nature of primordial awareness. And within primordial awareness, there is no duality. And it pervades all of samsara and nirvana. So it is not just this one a small mind somewhere, but it is this all-pervasive awareness that is everywhere. For example, it is like all of existence is like this big tree that has just different parts, the upper parts and the root and so on, but the same trunk. So all phenomena, it is said, have the nature of the 3 kayas, and the Buddha said that all beings are actually Buddhas. So this is what one realizes when one realizes the nature of the mind. And then finally, when one attains enlightenment, all dualistic grasping collapses, and from that, all the enlightened qualities naturally arise. So all of that arises when you realize the nature of your mind.
Jikting sawa kari chelang tri samji rubatana samji samji samadana tani sabat sebi batamana tri pasina do yore ti tonda o samji ke madana tri sama giveso do yore se sabatin do na parti to te parti to remove what it is you want to go yore this about it di 소만남 타는 이자다 다 계획이 옛날에 남과이나 들었다 차장 소리 있지 차도를 들지 나머지도 밖에만 보는 거요 양들이 말이 봐라甚至뭐 대바자 그바를 대바자나 그냥 거도 차도 들지 주양다 말하는 줄을 맞지나 다 저들 차도 들지 다 다른 데다가 사제 때 말 받친 거요 차도지를 다 drop 장파로 좀 시고래 되는 이제 공대 요래 정말 Jetsun Milarepa Kongosong, Controsum, Rangan Java Mays, the second choice of the Jetsun Java Me Tepa, say your controls of the double driving human roads. Can't it is you meet to the judges on the control something and control with any somebody thinking control somebody thinking and do yours. Take a Sunday to call the budgetary, and I meet to the judges songs. Ramming him is over the cardinal subject, so are the oh, simply something get a dinner, they go to some drink your that's something to the judges on Ramming him is over the to the on the road to the car, you can't do road safety, Tamsi Pama, they were taken there. Amaj drink boy, you know, this drink chili. The safety Tamsi Ama Mazeva me take on meba. Court Jotang me long data that I wrote on the song on the Sabbath me on data one. Simply summer there I also. How to watch with love your last. Come to watch about how songs. Don't think about the second on your marriage. Just to some go to Jim and the don't ever do about how songs, the second on your marriage. To that to buy made. Don't need on somebody. That you need maybe don't want to see the something your marriage. Better side to be down and some over. Damn myself love the church. Some good your marriage. Then Ponji don't know somebody made. Jimmy don't know my made. The Jimmy father. You got some trouble same day. Tela, don't go your marriage. Magona, you get Tony, Tela, Penna, Daji, Nime, Tawa, Telecom, the owner, Makicharam, Giga Katang, Dekiram, Genius, Target to Solon Johnson. Ramji, the Tony Jetta, and Drive Bay, simply Tantilla. Magicharan is that there told nothing. Down a Jabas was talker, that's another memories. Jabba Cassetta to send out some Madonna, the Senator Bamado, Kalin Jalapi. Kalin Jabba, that's a so battery. But a turn, but a pan, but a yore. They are Jabba something. Don't go your send out your carton library. Party go say to buy something, send out home. Just how much of an draw your then I told about it. Party till Charanga, Kalina, Mokapani, Batama, Wakuna, Church, Elmosa. Tijuati Mega, Turn Batini, Tella. Oh, he was oh, Dinga Cardinal Peter song, the Telpa, they don't tell you, I may pick the song. Jenny, Paz on a Pamaki Karina, Pagni Batistit. So why do my insan, you are changing on my something Kalidia song, the Baka Grace.
So this song dealt with the 6 paramitas on the outer level, the outer aspect. And then what follows is the inner aspect of the 6 paramitas. And so really go into the essence of the 6 paramitas. And so the essence really is that whatever activity you engage in, you should not give up love, immeasurable love. And if you do not give up love, then naturally whatever you do becomes virtue, becomes the 6 paramitas. And so then for the inner 6 paramitas, inner because each of those 6 paramitas is an antidote to an inner afflictive emotion. And so then there is on page 1 on the bottom, there is first a little introduction to that story here. And so here there were these teachers, but even though there's those teachers who challenged Milarepa, and so even though they were actually Buddhist teachers, they had a lot of biased views of attachment and aversion and jealousy. And because of jealousy creates a lot of obstacles within Buddhism. And so they came to Milarepa and they challenged him first, and later they developed faith. And so, but for as long as there's jealousy in their mind, even though they are practicing the Dharma, one practices the Dharma has not yet really arisen in one's mind stream. One still considers oneself as more important, and that leads to all kinds of hindrances and difficulties. And so Milarepa introduced them then that you have to understand the inner nature of the 6 paramitas. And he starts with, the victorious great refuges are the 3 precious jewels. Great bliss resides at the crown of my head. Be inseparable from me, from my heart I pray. So he places the 3 jewels on his crown, and be inseparable is that they always are within me, they always are in my heart. So being on my crown also means they're always in my heart. And then those 3 precious jewels, the essence of those 3 precious jewels is love and compassion. So that is really what I put my faith in. It is love and compassion. So when you supplicate here, when he supplicates here, he's supplicating really to never separate from love and compassion. And then you never separate from that if you remember the kindness of all sentient beings. And so then they will remain inseparable from you, those 3 jewels. And then he says, take with the hook of undistracted compassion the 6 beings who have been your father and mother. So we remember the kindness, he remembers the kindness of all mother sentient beings and recognizes that all beings have been one's mother, one's parents, and since beginningless lifetimes in samsara. So we remind ourselves of the 4 thoughts here and then develop immeasurable love. So basically he's saying, I feel love for all sentient beings. And then the yogi of the Mahayana does not hear the Dharma that is free of words. So he's saying, I have realized the view of the Mahayana, and the ultimate view transcends words. There is no words for the ultimate view. He does not ponder the true meaning of emptiness, nor does he meditate on the unborn reality. So there is no thought in his mind. There is no dualistic grasping of self and other. He's saying that when you practice Mahamudra, don't think about anything at all. There is no thought in the mind. In the Mahamudra teachings, it says, without thinking anything, look decisively beyond the mind. And that mind is beyond birth, abiding, and cessation. And that is what we need to habituate to. That is the true meaning of emptiness here. So you habituate to the view of non-duality. And as we mentioned yesterday, when you have habituated to that, here it says he turns away from the 10 non-virtues. So when you have habituated to that view, then naturally the 10 non-virtues become purified and the 10 virtues naturally arise. So then regarding generosity, he says, what benefit is generosity with hope for repayment, where you don't loosen the knot of avarice? So the point of practicing generosity is in order to become free from avarice or greed. For as long as there is avarice in the mind, you have not actually perfected generosity. Even if you make a lot of gifts to others and so on, you think that I'm being generous, but whether or not you have perfected generosity depends on whether or not avarice has left your mind, has dissolved within your mind. We mentioned also yesterday that in order to let go of this holding back mind, we should think that anything that we have to pay for, anything that we have to give, we can see it as generosity, a practice. Then we will not hold back, but we will freely give. Otherwise, if we, for example, give something to someone, then even though that might be generosity, but you might also have some hopes for getting something in return in the future. So you think that if I give that person this now, in the future he will give something to me. So generosity with hope for repayment, that is the meaning of that. So no matter what happens, you should give away freely without thinking about receiving anything in return. So that becomes then real generosity. So first you remember being's kindness, then you give away without any hope for reciprocation. And then everything that you give away becomes a practice of generosity or making offerings. So this is how he explains the nature of generosity.
lunga sawa kare na sakwa de so gedi ba jabu do ma shuri to de ma ko to so jabu do ma shuri nga ki fi ko lon zin ko re ji fi ko lo de ran ji ka to ndo ko te de de ji chi che bo go ni de se ji na ran ga mu se lunga go do ba ko ni pi to pe ba sawa do to la do the dramatum singing the Moragana, I saw body, a con to the Duati, Tabani, really achieve metal, Yodomi Vares. Oh, Tanya Cobrang to lawyer Boko, Zanga by age. That country me on go quarter tongue. The sort of really chibina, the Yojo Sawado child or don't they? Really chiona. Meet someone, think Tabali subject, or think about subject of Meti. Didn't the Yoda Young talk about something around each mena. This certainly called the Gavino, Tashid, Dawalana. This is so Santok Sangi, European Roma, Tsamgan and Romari. They talk about no Batanati, the Raji, Nika, no Batin, to Rangati, Santok Samatram Gariova. The really teachable, you only don't think about it. They got some of your me was chuck your don't sort of the Jubilan and draw your Yogium ranks and Chatago, you have all marriage, ranks and got the one. Oh, I think Topper Conti, I will call Hakon or Mago, Sanatati, Yojime Pesa, Chutabun Tatwati, Yojime Variation.
Then next is discipline. What benefit is there from pretentious discipline where you are not free of deceit and hypocrisy? So the essence of discipline is to give up deceit and hypocrisy in all your activities. And especially now, since we have taken the refuge vow, we are Sangha. So then you should think, I have taken refuge in the 3 jewels. I have to develop an altruistic intention. I have to benefit self and others. I have to benefit all beings. You have great trust in karma. And with real trust in karma, you will naturally want to do anything that benefits other sentient beings with body and speech. But even if you can't do it, at least in your mind, you should have the wish to benefit them. So you benefit them as well as you can, really sincerely, with a belief in karma. And then whatever you do becomes free of deceit. Otherwise, if you don't really trust in karma, then you will maybe temporarily put on a nice appearance and so on in order to deceive others. But if you don't really trust in karma, it becomes hypocrisy, really. If if you really trust in karma, then first of all you would feel love for everyone and you would be undeceiving towards anyone. So when we do not trust in that, and we do not trust in karma, and we do not develop love for others, then on the outer level we might put on an appearance. And for example, if we actually don't like somebody else, but we still pretend like we do, we're being nice when actually we don't really feel that within. So that actually does not turn into bodhicitta, and that is not ethical discipline. What's most important when we practice ethical discipline is that we do not cause any harm towards others, self and other, and mainly others. Really, when we are harming others, we are harming self and others, also ourselves. And when we are harming and hurting others, then we are also actually transgressing our bodhisattva vows. So the essence is to trust in karma. When you trust in karma, then naturally you will become undeceiving in all your activities. So ethical discipline therefore really comes back to trust in karma. And so that is something you can really see for yourself. Nobody else can see your own mind. Only you can know for yourself whether or not there is deception in your mind. For example, if there is no deception in your mind, then you would, for example, feel that I love him, whether he recognizes that or not, but this is my intention. So that's really the ultimate discipline. It is the a real trust in karma, which makes you be free from all deception.
직접 소자만 저별 자도 조배 잘 편성에 다른 조바 공부요 조바 공부 상대로나 조바 공부다 같이 수지지라는 힘을 책 요거는 뜻까지랑 코로 소중한 거요래 지니까 다 직접 소자들 직접 소자다고 그래 배나 그런 명이 소리 지으려고 그랬지 라상 서와마비가 요거에 따지를 조바 지거래서 하장 내 하장 같이 쉬. 라는 미니버 라는 미포를 좀 미니버리 줄지 가리. 오, 무슨 걸 용나 걸 말라도 없었지. 라상을 차차해. 다 되지 마이도 같은 무슨 거래. 오, 저기 지스 땅아야 봐지 하고 선생. 나가 봐지 다지 다지 세리 저 다지 통해요 말이. 직접 책을 봐요. 내가 강을 치워야지 이거 이제 직접 대사 직접 가지고 나를 연구해 지금 나에도 받은 문제인 걸 해서 근데 하자서 아침을 해.
And then it says, what benefit is the patience of ambition for fame, where you can't bear the weapons of others' harsh words? So we think that we want to practice patience. I'm practicing patience. So actually that's a very important point here. When other people say something that makes you feel uncomfortable, then immediately, even just a subtle form of anger, resentment arises because of that. This you cannot bear the weapon of others' harsh words here. Or for example, when someone calls out your name in a negative way, then immediately you will feel uncomfortable, like a negative feeling arises. And so in this moment, it's important that you remember the practice of patience. And so that is really extremely important because we often hear people say something negative to us or about us. And then when we hear that, then a discomfort, a dislike, an angry feeling arises. And actually this is where we can recognize this sense of I, this self-grasping. Normally we cannot see it, but this is when it comes up. So we actually should feel grateful to the other person, because otherwise we will not see it. So when it comes to that, this bearing of the weapon of harsh words, we have to be extremely careful. with each word, actually, we can recognize with each of these negative words, the self arises, and as it arises, we can recognize it. So this is a very important point.
All money bear me home, all money bear me home, all money bear me home.
Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Hi guys, quick ones. We have some folks with us that have real strong sensitivity to smells, chemical sensitivity. Please, please, please do not wear even essential oils in the temple. We're very close quarters in here.